Hello and welcome back to the Blue North. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the Democrats again. It seems to be my favorite subject, but they're just doing so many things that just have me baffled. I don't understand how these people could be voted in by the people for the people and then have them not do one thing for the people, not work towards helping them, actually the opposite. AOC celebrating the price of oil going below zero for the first time in history. And she tweets out, "You absolutely have to love it." No, you don't. You don't have to love it. Thousands of Americans are out of jobs. They're out of work. They have no money coming in. Their lives have been turned upside down. You have to absolutely love that only if you're a Democrat. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement. We see in Canada, Justin Trudeau bought the oil field just to shut it down here, and it's had repercussions across this entire country. It was the stupidest move we've seen a prime minister do in 30 years. But this is our deal. So now in the United States, AOC is celebrating it. Well, Justin, in his infinite wisdom, never came right out and said you have to absolutely love it. He wanted to shut it down. He bought it to shut it down. That's fine, but he never bragged about it. Now AOC is bragging about the price going down because she thinks it's going to somehow boost her Green New Deal. Not one Democrat voted in favor of the Green New Deal. It's going to take more than a pandemic to get the Green New Deal to work. But not only did she call for this to be something to celebrate, she's telling people when the pandemic is over and you go back to work, you should boycott going back to work. Don't do it. Don't go. Then you just lose your job. She's so out of touch. She gets a paycheck whether she shows up to work or not because she works for the government. But most people, most Americans, most Canadians, we have to show up. We have to be at work to get a paycheck. And our lives are really based around how much that paycheck is. Now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can call for all kinds of socialistic ideas. It's what she does. It's her voice. She gets to try to fill in for Bernie when Bernie's gone. She'll be the number one socialist. And it's a way of getting a paycheck. I can't believe that she even believes in the BS that she's spewing, but she does. I believe she truly does. And that's the scariest part about AOC. But we see that the Democrats themselves at the governor level are working against Donald Trump too. They're using the people of their states as pawns. Don't actually do a job that you've been hired to do or voted in to do, elected to do. You're supposed to be working with Donald Trump to help your state. The better you work with him, the better your state does. The better the people in your state make out. And you get to keep your job because you've been effective as a governor. Now, it's not effective if you're a governor that's a Democrat, and because it's an election year, you want to work against Donald Trump to make him look bad, and then the people in your state are going to suffer. There's a pandemic on. You have to suck it up. That's your job, is to make the best decision for your state. Work with the president. But no, we're seeing that no empathy towards people. They're just pawns. And it's sad. It's really a sad thing. When you see that one party is so for the people, trying to get people working, and Donald Trump had less unemployment within the Black, Hispanic, and Asian communities than ever before. He was getting those people working. He was getting the country back to where he wanted it, promised it would be, and he was achieving it all. And he was doing this for people, for the betterment of the people, Republican or Democrat. He was simply trying to do the best thing for everybody in the country. And we're seeing a very different story in the party that's opposing him. So you have Joe Biden trying to take that position away from Donald Trump. You see a man that's, there's a good argument for senior abuse here. We're seeing a man 77 years old that is definitely slipping cognitively. We're seeing that his wife is sitting beside him now doing interviews because he's so lost during these interviews. They're hoping that she can help push him along. Well, if you need your wife to sit beside you to answer the softest questions possible because the mainstream media has not asked you a tough question at all, and if you need your wife to sit beside you for those simple, easy questions, there's a real problem. So Biden's slipping. His wife is now sitting beside him for these questions. We see that the mainstream media is not asking him really any tough questions. He's not passing the easy questions, let alone answering any tough question. The mainstream media is not asking him anything about his sexual allegations, and there's been many of them. There's a string of them, all against colleagues, not women of just out there in the streets. These are just not women he's had encounters with. These are work related encounters that have actually filed numerous accounts against him. They've never gone anywhere because of who he is. And it's sad. Judge Kavanaugh had one allegation against him his entire life. And it was dragged through the mud. He was dragged through the mud by the media, by the Hollywood celebrities, by the Democrat Party, by everybody. There was paid protesters out in the streets with professional signs. There's not fooling anybody with those signs. They were paid to be there. This was the first allegation against Judge Kavanaugh. And really, most people didn't know that much about it. But those paid protesters made it look like there was a real movement against him. So that was the very first time anybody had come out. And it was 35 or 40 years ago that it happened, and it was ridiculous. There was no evidence, and there was no proof, and there was absolutely no way that it happened because nobody could remember anything. She couldn't remember anything. Plus, the story changed from grabbing at her a little bit to basically he was on top of her. He was raping her. Now, when you change your story, most people would find that to be a red flag. But with the Democrats, they kept sponsoring it. They kept trying to promote it. They kept trying to get those protesters to say he was a rapist. Then it was sad. So now Joe Biden's going through the same thing, has numerous other allegations against him, and there's silence. So the mainstream media is showing they're biased again. They're not asking tough questions. They're not asking him anything about the sexual allegations. They're giving him a free pass. The social media has been putting out all of their memes against Trump. Negative, negative, negative. So that will work. Media working against Trump. Biden really is only working against Biden right now. But the Democrats and the celebrities in Hollywood are just full blast right now against Trump, blaming him for everything. And I find it funny that on the same day that Trump bans travel, the mayor of 3 major cities in the United States, well, Nancy Pelosi wasn't the mayor, but she was representing San Francisco and telling everybody to get out there. So the mayor of New Orleans and the mayor of New York and Nancy Pelosi are all saying, get out there and share. This isn't a plague. We're a hardy bunch. Get out there, ride the subway, go to the parade, get out, go to Chinatown. So defying Trump, realizing there was something going on, there was a real pandemic. And on my last podcast, I showed how the timeline was really indicating how fast this was spreading. And they ignored all of that evidence in order to make Donald Trump look bad. They were putting Americans at risk on purpose just so that they could make Donald Trump look bad. That's the scariest part. If you look at the Democrats putting people in a position where it's favorable for them in an election year. So they're not concerned about Americans from the state level. The governor's not, because the governor wants to work against Trump so that Trump looks bad. So those people's lives are pawns. Then you see bringing in all kinds of people to live under plastic tents and homelessness and not work to help them at all, those people's lives are pawns. And we see that we're just, women can be mistreated. Numerous women can be mistreated as long as it's from a Democrat. Then those women's lives are just, that doesn't matter. There's a pattern here. AOC celebrating people's lives being ruined. It's all for their agenda. There's a very clear agenda from the left. It's there. It's plain and simple to see. You just have to see it. Sometimes if you're listening to CNN and MSNBC, you're not going to see it because you're seeing these rose-colored glasses, how everything is wrong with Donald Trump, and he's evil and he's doing all these things wrong. He's mentioning God's name. He's working to help people get back to work. And really, the Democrats are so busy claiming all of that is their own. They said Obama did all that. The Democrats have worked so hard for the last 4 years to try and make Trump look like a racist, a xenophobe, you name it. Worked with Russia. It's a collusion against the states. He's just the world's worst man. And yet all of it turned up to have just as much evidence as they did against Judge Kavanaugh. None. So the Mueller report, it was nothing. Then they were going to have an investigation into the Mueller report because they didn't get anything from it. And then they impeached him on a phone call where Biden himself had a video of bragging about holding back $1 billion of aid to the Ukraine because his son was being investigated for misbehavior on a board where he made $83,000 a month. So the evidence is there that Biden was really using his position as vice president for wrong things, for influence, and he was going to withhold money. It's okay in the Democrats' mind because that's a Democrat. But Trump made a phone call, so that's what they had to impeach him on. And they brag about it after. Once you're impeached, you're always impeached. You'll always be an impeached president. Well, I'll tell you right now, Donald Trump will be the first double impeached president. He will win re-election because the everyday American just wants to get back to work. They don't want to boycott working when they get back. They want to get back to making payments on their house and their trucks and their cars or whatever it is. They want to get back to working so that they can afford to go back to camp and that they can get back to doing the things that they love the most, living. They want to get back to doing things with their family, maybe traveling, maybe visiting. People are excited to be able to go sit down in the same room as someone else and enjoy a cup of coffee and a conversation. America is waiting, desperate to get back to work. And the Democrats are desperate to get back to the White House, and they're going to use Americans and their everyday lives against them to do it. And that is so sad. But I'm going to stay on top of this here at the Blue North, so stay tuned for more podcasts on the Blue North.